So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. Oh boy. So, I want to have a chat about something that has been bothering me, and it's been on my mind for the past couple of days ever since I heard it. And let me say this as a disclaimer, all of these allegations are alleged. They are alleged because I don't know if they are true or not. But, we live in a very strange world sometimes, and bad things do happen in our world, especially to babies and children. Okay? I'm going to try my best not to mention any names in this video because the parties that I'm talking about, one of them is still alive from a famous group, and the other ones are also from a famous group, and they had a manager who was very, very famous. Um, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to mention any names because people are so celebrity obsessed. And I don't want that to take away from what the point of my video is because, people get in their feelings when you talk about celebrities and famous people. I'm not obsessed with famous people. I can like people's work, but I don't get obsessed with them. See, that's a whole different, ball game. I can appreciate their body of work. For example, just on a side note, why would Angela Bassett be given an honorary Oscar? I think they gave it to her last year. I don't know. They didn't give it to her this year, I don't think. But why would they give her an honorary Oscar, but they won't give her an Oscar for her phenomenal work as an artist, as an actress? The same thing with Glenn Close. Why hasn't Glenn Close, who played in Fatal Attraction, she played the character of the mentally ill woman, Alex Forrest, who was stalking and harassing Michael Douglas and his wife, played by Ann Archer. Why hasn't Glenn Close ever won an Academy Award? And it's the same thing with Angela Bassett. So you will give her an honorary Oscar, but you won't give her an Oscar for her work. And to me, it just says, okay, yeah, we know you did a lot of good work in the industry. Yeah, but we don't want to give you an Oscar because, you didn't do some of the things we wanted you to do. You didn't take some of the roles that we wanted you to take. You know what? Angela Bassett is what I call a functioning blacklisted celebrity. And she has a lot of talent. She's a functioning blacklisted person. And when I say functioning blacklisted, she's blacklisted, but they still allow her to work on certain projects. Now, personally, I think she was a better fit on American Horror Story. I don't know Ryan Murphy. I don't know what type of work, what type of warlockery he's doing or witchery he's doing. I don't know, but he's not doing it right because he is ruining his shows. The people that he has on 911 are the people that he should put over on American Horror Story. The people that he has on American Horror Story, he should put them on 911. Now, Ryan Murphy, Mr. Murphy, if you ever see this, I'm just giving you my personal advice. Because you got some talent, but you're not positioning them in the right positions. You need to appoint them and position them in the right positions. But to me, Angela Bassett was better on American Horror Story, especially when she played Marie Laveau. She was badass. But I guess that was too much energy for them. So then they had to downgrade her to Athena Grant on 911. Now, she's supposed to be the star of the show. She gets top billing. But the show mainly revolves around Jennifer Love Hewitt. Nothing wrong with that. I love me some Jennifer Love Hewitt. You know, nothing wrong with Jennifer Love Hewitt. I love me some Jennifer Love Hewitt. So it's nothing wrong with that either. But I'm just keeping it real and keeping it honest. They gave Angela Bassett, the woman who played Tina Turner, an honorary Oscar. They did not award her for her role as Tina Turner. They did not award her for her role as Bernadine in Waiting to Exhale. They did not award her for her role in Bozeman and Lena with Danny Glover, which was a very good movie about a homeless South African couple who were facing so many challenges. They were thrown off of their land and they were basically homeless, and they were portraying South Africans. They didn't give her an Oscar for that, but yet they're giving her an honorary Oscar. They didn't give her one for Black Panther. I'm not a big Black Panther fan, but I do think she deserved to win for that. Same thing with Viola Davis. Why hasn't Viola Davis gotten an Oscar yet? For Best Leading Actress. You mean to tell me that the only actress, the only Black actress that you're ever going to give it to is Halle Berry? Make it make sense. Now, like a lot of people were saying, I was happy to see that Robert Downey Jr. got an award because that man has been through some things. He's been through some things. He's been through some things. But I'm just saying on a side note, you know, and from what I understand, the reason they blackballed Angela Bassett is because she turned originally. Now, this is just rumor and allegations, but I think it is more. I read that it was true. I read somewhere that it was true, but that doesn't make it true. But I heard that one of the reasons that they blackballed her was because she turned down the role in Monsters Ball, the one that Halle Berry won an Academy Award for. When in actuality, Halle Berry should have won an Academy Award for playing Dorothy Dandridge. But let's flip that whole fucking scenario. Let's flip the whole thing. You know what? Let me just be honest with you. In actuality, I think Janet Jackson would have been a better choice to portray Dorothy Dandridge because she looked more like her. Okay? And I think that I like Halle Berry, don't get me wrong, I love me some Halle Berry, but Janet Jackson can act in a deeper range. And by her being a Taurus and Dorothy Dandridge being a Scorpio, that would have been the shadow self portraying the shadow self. Even though years ago they had Janet Jackson down as a Gemini, but they changed her over to a Taurus. I don't know why, but that's another story. Let's take it a step further, since we're going to be talking about the entertainment industry. In actuality, you know who would have been, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I think that Jennifer Lewis would have also been good in playing the Tina Turner role. She ended up playing Tina Turner's mother, Zelma Bullock, though, in the movie, alongside Angela Bassett. I'm just saying. I think that Jennifer Lewis would have made an excellent Tina Turner as well. Okay? I'm just talking. Just said all that to say this. So I saw something the other day. Let me get into really what I wanted to talk about, the meat of this video. I was watching some of the people that I'm subscribed to. I'm not going to mention any names. But there was a video that I saw from someone that I sub to. She's now a major YouTuber and she makes videos talking about Hollywood scandals and stuff like that. If you find out what I'm talking about, then you'll find out. If you don't, then you don't. And she did a video the other day about a famous person who was the head of a famous family, Black family. I'm talking about all Black folks, okay? And she was talking about an allegation that was made by the son of another famous person who was in an all male singing group. Now, the son made an allegation against this well known famous manager over here who was the head of a family, a black family. And let me tell you what was said. The son of this particular famous group member of another group, he said that his father, who I will not name, and other band and group members came to his house one day, all dressed in cloaks and robes, right? He said that it was his father and practically all of his group members. Then he said there were other group members from another group. They came with their father, who was also their manager. And y'all gonna know who I'm talking about when I say that, okay? And there was only one person that was not there, who was in that group, with that group of people over there. Evidently, they had some type of ritualistic ceremony that involved, let's just say, sacrificial stuff involving an infant. And they did some things that were very, very disturbing to me. And I'm trying to find the right words to say it. Let's just say they drank something in a ceremonial, they call it, I think, a goblet or something like that. I can't think of the name of it. They all were standing around in a circle. Then there was a white man that was there who was the owner of the record company. He was there as well. Then another white man came in. He said it was a tall white man with a pointy face who had a hood over his head. He was the leader of the ceremony. I have my own opinions of who that may have been, but now remember, the person who's recounting this story, he said he was only 4, 5, or 6 years old. He doesn't remember. So that's why I'm saying this is all allegation, because I'm going to tell you something. If I experienced something that traumatic, I would remember. When my grandmother died, I was about 8 years old. About 8 years old when my grandmother died. Very traumatic. When my uncle died, I was 13 years old in 1993. As a matter of fact, the anniversary of his death is coming up next month. So things like, that's why, I question what this person is saying. And I believe he wrote a book about it that I'm not going to advertise. If you find out what I'm talking about, you will. But the reason I'm talking about this is because I've had dreams where I have seen people who live in, I want to call, say, gated communities, doing sacrificial things as it pertains to infants and children in general. I've had dreams about that, and they were very vivid. And what I find interesting about all of this, and you all follow me here, if you notice something, there's a pattern. It is always men who are doing this. They are the ones who are always involved in these types of actions. And I was so horrified hearing this story. I'm not going to go into all of the details of the story, but let's just say that that infant that was involved in that sacrificial energy, and not just that one, from what I heard in the story, from listening to the story, it wasn't just that infant. That particular infant, they disconnected it from its they disconnected its head from its body. And They were cannibals, these people. And these are well known people. If I said their names, you would know who they are. And again, I'm saying allegedly. Now, this is not a conspiracy theory. This was reported by the son of one of the group members. The son said he saw it. They came to his house in St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm assuming if he was 4, 5, or 6, this happened in the early 80s. And I've always told people there was a lot of sinister things that went on in the early 80s and in the 80s in general, especially when it pertained to child sacrifice. A lot. So I was really horrified to hear this story because I wasn't expecting to hear that. But these are people that a lot of people look up to. How do you wake up in the morning as a man? How do you wake up in the morning as a man? And fortunately, all of those men that had something to do with that, with the exception of one of them in one of those groups, one of the group members there's only one group member alive in one of those groups. The other ones, only one of them died, but he wasn't involved in this ritual. But his brothers and his father was. Y'all gonna know who I'm talking about. How do you, as a grown man, wake up in the morning, eat your breakfast, take a shower, put your clothes on? That's if these allegations are true. That's why I'm not naming any names. How do you wake up in the morning? And also, there was some SAing that went on between, they also allegedly SA'd some children that were in the house that were the other children of the group member whose son is retelling this story. So basically, his siblings. One of his siblings was SA'd by these grown men in ceremonial cloaks, having this ritual. And I'm not going to even call it a satanic ritual. That wasn't no satanic ritual. That was something else. That was something else. I can tell you that. I don't, because he tried to say that, well, they had a pentagram, drawn on the floor. I don't give a fuck if they had a Willacoochee Osha Kenosha drawn on the motherfucking floor. That wasn't no motherfucking satanic ritual. Y'all put a lot of shit on Satan. Satan don't do shit like that. But your God does. Look at the Bible. Your God does, because, and y'all gonna really know who I'm talking about now, because the group members over here, I'm gonna say group A and group B. Group B, I'm gonna say group B, they're Jehovah's Witnesses. Y'all gonna know who I'm talking about. They're well-known Jehovah's Witnesses, and their father was brutal towards them. Their manager father. Y'all gonna know who I'm talking about. You know what? Fuck it. I'm talking about Joe Jackson and the Shy-Lights. Fuck it. Allegedly. And the Jackson 5, minus Michael. Michael wasn't there. But the other ones were there, according to the Shy-Lights, according to the Shy-Lights' son. According to him, all of the Jackson boys were there with the exception of Michael. Involved in this horrific, horrifying ritual, allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly. The son of the Shy-Lights member's son, he has a YouTube channel where he was talking about this. Now, he says it was satanic abuse. But what people don't understand is there are, this is how this breaks down. There are there's the original energy, there's the original path, and then what happens is corrupt people create a sub-entity. Because what these people are really practicing really has nothing to do with Satanism. Satanism does not harm babies, children, or animals. Now, I know people are going to say, how could you say that? You must be a Satanist. You can think whatever the fuck you want. You can write it down, take a motherfucking picture. I don't give a fuck. It ain't about what I am. It's about what is being presented to the world as facts. It's not about you following a satanic left-hand path. You follow whatever path you want to follow. But it's about telling the truth. I have read the tenements of Satanism, and nothing in there talks about sacrificing children or sacrificing babies or even harming animals. As a matter of fact, one of the offerings that people gave to Satan, if you're a Satanist, one of the offerings that people gave to Satan was like some type of pound cake with honey in it or something like that. That's an offering you can make to Satan or something like that. That's one offering. But real Satanists, they don't do shit like that. They don't do shit like that. That is why these people are sinister. That's a whole nother dark, sinister energy, and it's tied into Masonic Christianity. That is what it's tied into. The darker side of Christianity tied into Masonic. Because when I was listening to the colors that they were wearing, some of them were wearing black. Some of them were wearing, according to the gentleman telling the story, at his house, 5 years old, he said some of them were wearing wearing red robes, and some of them were wearing black robes. So hearing that, I already know what's up. I already know what's up. He said they had a dagger with a snake on the handle of it. A snake. A snake does not represent Satan. That doesn't represent Satan. I don't know what it represents, but that does not represent the true version of Satan. So who were they sacrificing those children and that infant to? And this is what I really wanted to talk about. We can say it's that God of the Bible, which it probably is in some way, shape, or form. But what I'm beginning to realize is that a lot of these people, they're not sacrificing people to spirits. Because, truthfully, you don't have to sacrifice people to spirits in order to get prosperity and abundance. You don't have to do that. They're sacrificing people to other people. This ain't got nothing to do with spirituality. They have hijacked spirituality. They have hijacked Satanism. They have hijacked Wiccan. And they've tried to turn it all into something dark and sinister while behind the scenes practicing Jehovah Witnessing, Christianity, and all of these other religions. All these Judaic religions, they're practicing all of these religions, but then behind the scenes, they're sacrificing children. I'm going to be honest with you. Joe Jackson, in my opinion, he looks evil. That other member of the Shiites that's still alive, the one that's about 80 some years old now, he looks evil too. They both look like ghouls. And I don't give a fuck if Joe Jackson is dead or not. He looks like a ghoul. He looks like a fucking ghoul. I am so angry because you don't know who that baby, who was that baby? If this is in fact true, where did they get that baby from? Is my question. Did they steal it from the maternity ward? Did they steal it from the hospital? Because you just don't know the level of malevolency or malevolent evil that these people will go to do some of the things that they think that they need to do. Looking at them, they look like they would do something like that. And what's so interesting is Credell, I think his name is Credell Jones. That's whose house they were in. Credell Jones' son was the one telling what his father was into. And Credell Jones of the Chi-Lites, he died very tragically in 1994. He wasn't even that old when he died. He died broke, penniless, and I think he died homeless. The same thing with Nat Tarnopol, who was the record company owner. He was at that ritual too, allegedly. He died early in age too. He was only 56 years old. A lot of them died really young from horrible diseases. Well, what do you expect? You're running around drinking people's whatevers. You know what I'm talking about? The red stuff. I don't want to say that too much on YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about? You're running around drinking that? You think that was the only ritual that they did? How many more babies have these people killed and sacrificed to what? Because they didn't sacrifice that baby to no Satan. Satan don't do shit like that. That's not what that energy's for. They created a sub-entity. They created a sub-entity and a sub-spiritual culture and tried to pass it off as authentic Satanism. And people are out here, it's already bad enough what the Bible has labeled, Satan as, without people really investigating and understanding what that really is. And I don't really want to get all into that because I don't want to get past, I don't want people to miss the point of the video. Because the point is not about being a Satanist or trying to tell people to be a Satanist. The point is that the evil that they tell you about Satan, that ain't the evil that these people are sacrificing to. See, that fake God, Jehovah, Yahweh, that deity from the Orion system, Yaldabaoth, whatever its motherfucking name is, has Hollywood under control. The Jacksons are known Jehovah's Witnesses. They're known Jehovah's Witnesses. And what's so interesting is that Joe Jackson was brutal to his children. He was brutal to them. Now, some people say, well, he just wanted them to be successful. I get that. But I'm looking at it as an occultist and as a spiritualist, how brutal he was. So it makes me wonder, was he under some form of possession because he looked like it and he acted like it? He looked like it. And he acted like it. He acted like someone who was under some form of possession. The way that he used to go after Michael. Isn't it interesting that Michael was not even there? That's very interesting. That's because Michael was the chosen one. He was the chosen one. He wasn't there. He didn't participate in that. So that also, and this happened in the early 80s, so Michael would have been an adult. So that also gives that, people say a lot of things about Michael Jackson and children and stuff. I don't believe those allegations. If I'm wrong, but I don't believe them. I don't believe Michael Jackson would harm children. I don't believe that. And him not being at that ceremony is proof to me that he would never harm a child or a baby. But his father would, because Joe Jackson, he hated kids. He only used them for what he wanted to use them for. He knew that Michael was the chosen one. That is why so much of his rage and demonic, I'm going to say demonic rage, was directed, or I'm not even going to say demonic, but some of that entity, whatever entity was possessing him, because I don't even think that was a demon. That was an entity of some sort. Whatever that was, it was honing in on Michael. How do we know that he didn't do work on Michael to take him out? See, we keep thinking, oh, it was the elites, it was the white people, it was this It's usually the motherfucker sitting right in your motherfucking face. Your mama, your father, your sisters, your brother. Same motherfucking people that be calling you brother. Yeah, what's up, my brother, and all that. Those are the same ones. Just like with the Shylights and the Jacksons. Because it's coming out now that there was some issues between Michael and his brothers. Some people say that his brother, I think they say Jermaine, could sing better than Michael. I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that. I'm a Michael Jackson. I love Michael Jackson. Um, I think he was a phenomenal talent. And I think he really just got, I just think something just went terribly wrong in his life. And I remember I think it's Lisa Marie Presley. He was married to her at one point, right? Right. She did an interview, and she's deceased now too. Interesting. Um, she did an interview where Michael, which not where Michael, but she was talking about Michael, and I don't know if he was deceased at that time or not, but she was talking about how he kept thinking that there were demons that were after him. He kept saying demons were after him. And we keep thinking it's the record company, it's Clive Davis and all that old bullshit. Clive Davis ain't have to do none of that. He got minions like Joe Jackson that probably did that shit for him. I've never liked that man. I've never liked him. Now, I will give him credit for being stern, but being abusive and evil. And now this new alleged piece of information, it's really not hard for me to believe. He looks like someone that would do something like that. He does. And then I said, well, why would the Shylights and the Jackson Five be getting together doing blood sacrificial rituals? Why would they be doing that? Do they even know each other? Got on my computer, child. Click, 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 click. Got on my computer. I've seen several pictures of Joe Jackson with Marshall Thompson, the only surviving member of the Shylights. And yes, he was there too. He was there too at that ritual. I said I wasn't going to mention his name, but he was there too. He looks like a ghoul as well. And I don't give a fuck who don't like what the fuck I'm saying. I said it and I ain't taking it back. They can talk about women. They can talk about black women being fat. They can talk about black women in weave, but can't nobody talk about y'all sacrificing kids and babies? What's up with you black men? What's up with you motherfucking niggas? You talk about white men, but y'all doing the same motherfucking shit. We know what white men do. That story really pissed me the fuck off. It really disturbed me. I haven't even been able to sleep because it was just so horrific and so graphic. And then it takes me to what's going on over in Israel and over in Palestine with Hamas beheading babies. Because that's what they did in that ritual, allegedly, at the Shilite person's house. And I said, what energy is this? And then everybody is so quick to believe because a pentagram was on the floor that automatically means, oh, they're doing this to Satan. A pentagram doesn't always necessarily mean that they're sacrificing someone to Satan. And see, that's what people don't understand. That does not mean that. The pentagram was never meant to be used for sacrificing or for evil. The pentagram, what it stood for was mind, body, spirit, and the elements. I'm sorry, not mind, body, spirit. I'm sorry. The elements and the spirit. Earth, air, water, fire, spirit. The 5 points. The 5 nexus points is what I like to call it. That's what that stood for. But then they started using it, men, here we go with men again, they started using it for sinister purposes. And then you wonder why people are saying toxic masculinity. Men need to be removed from power. You wonder why people are saying that. And it's no disrespect to any decent men out there. I'm not talking about all men. But I'm talking about these types of men that the black community especially have looked up to. We've all loved the Jacksons and the Shawnites. What's that song they sing? I didn't even know they sung that song. Have you seen her? They sing that. That's them. How do you go from making beautiful music like that to allegedly doing the shit that I heard that they did in that house? And no telling how many times they've done that. Well, the good news is the shit backfired on them because most of them died horrible deaths and they suffered. They died prematurely, including Nat Tarnopol, the owner of Mercury Records. I believe it was Mercury Records. Yeah. See, everybody looks at Clive Davis as the devil and this, and he did this, and he did that, and yada, 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 yada. But nobody never looked over here at Joe Jackson. They never looked at Joe Jackson. And now everything is making sense. Whatever entities were possessing him, they were causing him to go after Michael, particularly because Michael rejected that bullshit. I don't believe Michael harmed no children. I think Michael just wanted people to leave him alone. He was a Virgo like me. We don't like people bothering us. And we retreat into ourselves. I also think that Michael knew what his father was doing. And that was another reason why there was an estrangement between them. He knew what Joe was doing. Joe was a motherfucker. He cheated on Catherine left, right, and sideways. He was cheating with one of his secretaries. Then he went out and had another whole baby, this girl named Giovanna or Giovanni or something like that. Now, again, all of this stuff is alleged when it comes to that ritual. But it's not a conspiracy theory because Credell Jones' son is the one that is making the allegations. He made a video about it and he wrote a book about it. He made videos about it 4 years ago. I didn't know anything about it, but it was horrifying listening to that. Considering I'm a protector of babies because of the type of energy that I am. I don't like people fucking with babies and kids. But these grown-ass men, they will do anything to get ahead. Protect your kids, child. Protect your children by any means necessary. Because you know what? It's not just well-known rich people that are doing this. There are people on lower levels that are doing stuff like this too. Remember back in the 80s when all of those children were going missing? Every time you turned around, there were children on milk cartons saying, have you seen this person? And I remember even then, back in the 80s when I was a child, I would get a very eerie feeling about that. It just felt eerie and it felt really sinister. And of course, at that time, they tried to say it was satanic. They tried to put it on satanic energies. But no one has looked at the church. No one has looked and examined the church. It's right there in front of your face. And that's including the Catholic Church, who has exploited, abused, and misused children in their ritualistic stuff as well. And let's not forget the Jehovah Witnesses Church, the abuse that people go through there. My friend that lives with me, he told me his stepfather was a Jehovah's Witness who used to beat him and his brother until they bled. And you're telling me that there's no connection between that and what happened in that Shy Lights house? That group member, that Shy Lights house with that ritual? You're telling me there's no connection between that? There's no connection between that and what's going on in Gaza right now with babies being beheaded? But they blaming Satan for it. But these people are Islam. They are, some of them are, the ones over in Palestine, those are Islamic people connected to Yahweh. Joe Jackson was a Jehovah's Witness connected to Yahweh, just under a different name. The Catholic Church, Yahweh, same deity, different name. You found your devil right there. The early church used to use the pentagram, but then they banned it for some reason. They banned it. They tried to say because people were using it for sinister purposes. No, it wasn't people using it for sinister purposes. They're using it for sinister purposes, for materialism, wealth, and prosperity that has nothing to do with spirit. Has nothing to do with spirit. The elements are the elements. The spirit is the spirit. And suffices to say, most of them that were involved in that ritual in that Shy Lights house in St. Louis, Missouri, most of them they didn't even gain any riches and wealth and prosperity like that. And it did not last. Do you really think by sacrificing babies and children and innocence, do you really think that that's going to make your abundance and your prosperity grow long term? No, it's short term. It's always short term. No matter what we see human wise, it's always short term. Joe Jackson died from pancreatic cancer. Yeah, he was 89 years old, but he was not on the best of terms with any of his children. And the son that was the chosen one disowned him. It wasn't just about him beating Michael's ass and abusing Michael. It was because Michael knew, allegedly, some of the stuff that his father was into to get fame and fortune. For all we know, he could have been the one that sacrificed Michael. For all we know. I tell you, what a world, what a world, what a world, child. What a world, what a world. I tell you, the more and more that you learn, the more and more that you don't want to learn. But see, being an occultist and being a spiritualist, I am always and have always been into the more darker aspects of the occult. looking at darker stories like this because I'm made for this. That's why the universe made me the way that I am, made me strong because my mind can deal with this. It took me a couple of days to talk about this, and this is what we do. So we reveal stuff so people can understand what's going on. We all have our own way of doing our work. They wasn't sacrificing nobody to no Satan. They were sacrificing to that entity that they call God. Because chances are they're all connected to some type of Masonic energies. Chances are a lot of black men in the churches are. You think them pastors and them mega churches, you don't think they doing the same thing? You don't think they doing the same thing that Joe Jackson and the Shylights were doing? You don't think so? Think about it. How did they get their wealth and prosperity? How did they get it? How many children did they sacrifice? How many babies did they sacrifice? What are we going to find in their closet 40 years from now? What are we going to find in their closet? What skeletons, I mean? Anyway, um, I just had to get that off my chest because I was really bothered by that. I was really bothered by that because children are innocent. Babies are definitely innocent. And it just bothered me. Grown ass men doing what they did to that infant. And I'm going to tell you something before I close this out. Whoever that infant was that they did that to, that wasn't just a rant. I'm gonna say allegedly, again, allegedly. But whoever that infant was, that infant was probably destined to be somebody great. That is why they sucked its energy and killed it. That's why. That infant was probably destined to be someone great. They didn't just pick that person randomly. There was something about those infants that they sacrificed. It was something about them special that they chose to do that to. Marshall Thompson, you're going to get your karma too. You may still be alive, but you're going to get your karma too, you ghoul. He's a ghoul. He is a ghoul. And he's going to get his karma too. The Virgo. He got the nerve to be a motherfucking Virgo. But Virgos can be some sinister motherfuckers. Trust me, I'm a Virgo, so I know. But I don't get down like that. I don't get down like that. If it was some adult person that I don't like, shit, yeah, we may be able to have a conversation, and I ain't gonna think too much on that. If it's some grown adult nigga that I don't like, or white dude, or whatever dude that I don't like, or bitch that I don't like, we may be adult. We may be able to have a conversation. But this also goes to show you that what I said a few days ago a couple of weeks ago about boomers sacrificing Generation X, this is all part of that. That ties everything in. Sacrificing is not just about killing the person's body. It's about killing the person's soul and spirit, or trying to. And that's what that was. This is what this is all about. The boomers sacrificed Generation X, like I told you all a couple of weeks ago. I'm not trying to sound like a know-it-all, but it's just that the revelations, these spiritual revelations that I am experiencing, they're really showing me what's going on. And it just ties into what I said about how boomers sacrifice Generation X. Sacrifice is not just one thing. People can sacrifice you in many different ways. And they have spent the past 50 years or so or more sacrificing Generation X, so they can continue to stay around for whatever reason. And I don't think any of this shit is spiritual with them. There's nothing spiritual about them. They are carnal beings who are only interested in fleshly and earthly desires. But this is all, just my own personal view. This is just how I feel about things. And it just really it just makes you look at the world and go like, damn, this shit really goes on. See, everybody ain't built to be an occultist or a spiritualist or have a spiritual life, because there's a dark side to it. These are some of the things that happen. Everything is not just rainbows and sunbeams and sweets and ice cream and cake. No, some things are just some things are very bitter. Some things are very bitter. And in my journey, I've had to endure a lot of information that has really horrified me. But I endure all of that. I endure all of that so I can talk about it and break it down so people can have an understanding from my own perspective. Everybody has a right to their own perspective. My perspective ain't the best. It ain't all right, but I'm just telling you what I see and what I feel. And I feel like that on a larger scale, this is also part of the sacrificing of Generation X by boomers. This was just an actual physical representation of sacrificing. But at the end of the day, it's still sacrifice. Who was that baby? Who was that baby supposed to be? That they wanted to sacrifice it and drink its blood and then decapitate it, then eat its body. I didn't even want to tell y'all that. That's what they did, allegedly. That's what they did, allegedly. I see they ain't saying a motherfucking thing to the Shylight's son about talking about it. Some people say they believe him. Some people say they don't believe him. I think when there's smoke, there's fire, because he did give out some details that only a person there could give out. When he described the knife with a snake on it, I said, okay, maybe. Now, again, this is something coming from someone that was there. He said he was there. That was his house. His father was a member of the Shylights, Credell Jones. And his father allowed these people in his house to have this disgusting ritualistic ceremony. He allowed that. And that's probably why his life ended up the way that it did. No sympathy, no compassion. Not for me. They didn't have any for that infant, allegedly, if that happened. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Keep your children safe. Keep them safe. Keep them protected spiritually. However you do that, but keep them safe. Keep them away from some of these men. If your child, especially a boy, and a girl too, but especially a boy in this instance, if your son is playing sports and all of that type of stuff, you make sure, if you're a mother or a father, you make sure you go to those practices with your son, especially if he's not an adult. You go to those practices with your son, because some of these coaches, they be molesting these boys. I've heard so many horror stories. They be molesting these boys. You keep an eye on your girls too, because girls get trafficked and everything. Black, white, it don't matter. I heard somebody say that they be trafficking a lot of kids over in Sweden, white kids. That a whole lot of stuff is going on in this world. And while the church sits back and says, oh, that's the devil, and the whole time it's them. Oh, that's Satan, but the whole time it's them. People keep thinking Satan runs Hollywood. No, Satan don't run Hollywood. Yahweh runs Hollywood. Yahweh runs Hollywood. But he don't run my motherfucking life. Anyway, that's all I have to say. You can take it how you want. You can like it. You can love it. I'm just giving my perspective. This ain't no disrespect to anyone, but it's a lot of stuff that is going on in this world, and a lot of these people that we look up to, a lot of them ain't shit. A lot of them ain't shit. You make good music in the day and then go sacrifice a child and a baby the next hour. Who does that? Then on the other hand, I know I said I was getting ready to go, but then on the other hand, one thing that kind of makes me think that it might not be true either is the fact that why would they do this in the house? Something like that you would think they wouldn't want to do in a house with witnesses because that's murder. But maybe that's just the level of evil of these people. Who was the man, the white guy, that came and led the ceremony? Who was that? Who was it? Hmm. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Keep your children safe. Thank you.